Good evening, Khumo family. It's your boy Ryan Gibson. How are you? Hope you guys are doing well. Today we have another great mini master for you. We're going to get into the topic of, apparently it's a big topic that you actors have been asking about, chemistry between actors. How do actors deal with each other? Now, we look at this. Let's just look at these two right here. This lovely couple on the beach. Don't we feel like they love each other? No, we don't. Well, we do feel that they're getting paid a lot of money just for her to be on his back, for this moment to feel real. That's the thing that we got to remember. At the end of the day, you don't have to like your scene partner. I think people got it twisted. Do you think that you, him, and her have to be best buddies? They don't. They may only speak to each other in front of camera. That's fine. As long as when they come in front of camera, they leave whatever animosity, whatever issues they have, they leave that alone and they come in here and they play the part. Let me give you some examples. Again, I'm going to date myself. There's a show called Moonlighting in the 80s. And then the show was Sybil Shepherd and Die Hard movies. Bruce Willis. And they hated each other apparently. Couldn't stand each other. Just looked like they wanted to fight off set. They were known for having knockdown, drag out fights off camera. But on camera, you would have sworn that these two were in love, wanted each other passionately. But the passion came from probably the hate, because there's two sides to love and hate. But how did they do it? Smartly. They came to set and they did their jobs, people. See, again, I look back at this and you go, these people look like they must be in love. They may not even have ever met until this day. They have a job to do. They know what the job is. They come and they do it. They play the role. Now, how do you help yourself if you are meeting somebody for the first time? And maybe you decide you guys are great. Maybe you're buddies. And it's weird. Like, for instance, in the Harry Potter series, Ron and Hermione were friends. They were close friends. The guys, the actors playing them, Rupert Grint and what's the other young lady's name? I can't think of her name. But you know who I'm talking about. But they were friends. And it is well known that when it came time for them to have to kiss each other in that scene, that it took a lot of time for them to do it, because they didn't see each other even remotely in that they were brother and sister. They grew up together. They knew each other in that way. Apparently there was nothing sexual chemistry as far as they were concerned with each other in that way. But they made us believe it in that moment. Go back and watch that scene. You might see moments where you go, are they laughing? They might be. You might see a little hint of a smile, a little hint of uncomfortability. But those are those little one-off moments. But they have to do it because that's what the scene calls for. That's what the money they're getting paid to do. What happens, though, if you have to do this right here, for an entire movie or series or whatever? A scene where you have to make us believe that you two really love each other when maybe you don't really like each other or you don't really know each other. The first one or the second one, you can help this way. Get to know each other. Spend time with each other. Perfect example, Big Bang Theory. The two actors who played the two male leads, Sheldon and Leonard, hadn't met before. They spent the whole night, apparently, at a bar, getting to know each other with a little help from Mr. Alcohol. And from what I understand, after like the second drink, a lot of things that would have been shared that you wouldn't have shared to maybe someone who wasn't your roommate were shared. And that made an immediate closeness. Thank God it appears, I don't know it to be true, but it appears that they also liked each other. But if they didn't like each other, they would have to be fools not to figure out a way to make it work. Now, I happen to work on Friends, so I know this to be true. The cast of Friends were friends. They actually did like each other. They all got along just fine. Did they always hang out? No. They hung out early. Early on, they hung out all the time, but later on, they didn't hang out as much because life, babies, wives, husbands, yada, yada, yada. They started doing their own thing. But the reality is that they were close, and it came across on camera, which is part of the reason that show was successful, is that they were actually friendly to each other and got to know each other. And they used, the writers wrote to the friendship. They wrote to the things that were real about each one of them, the things that were sort of innate to their personalities, things that maybe weren't necessarily there initially, they wrote to it so that they didn't have to try very hard. So Matthew Perry rather, was the guy who would make jokes all the time. He was that guy regularly. So of course, you're gonna just write to him making jokes Because it was right there. It's easy. Just put a joke out. He'll catch it. He'll make it work. So if you're on a scene, if you walk into a scene and you're meeting somebody, hopefully you're not meeting them for the first time, but it happens. There's definitely times where as an actor, you have to come to set and you're not a major player, but you're meeting the major players maybe for the first time, but you're supposed to have some kind of on-screen chemistry. How do you create it? Listen. That's what you do. You listen. You stop whatever it is you're doing and you listen to what it is that they're doing. Because if they're the bigger name in the story, if they're the stories about them, you are in service to them. So you want to listen and make sure that you're paying attention. So if you know your character gets killed off on page 25, and then the main character continues onward, and you're in like 4 scenes, then you better make those 4 scenes count. In those scenes, be present. Be present, be present, be present. What do I say when I mean that? Sometimes people get into a scene and they're distracted. Life, kids, wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, mortgage, bill, parents, illness, death, birth, anything could be happening. If you cannot let those things go for the time that you can be on set, then you shouldn't be on set. Because you're going to be failing the production and you'll be failing your scene partner. You have to be able to let that stuff go. When I've acted in the past, one of the things I always do is I stay present. I make sure that I get myself into a space and I ask myself, where did I come from and where am I going to? Like if the scene is me sitting down at a table and somebody walks over to me, I didn't just magically appear here, I came from somewhere else. So I've worked that out in my head. So that I have a clear line and I keep playing that and I stay in that so that I'm in the moment. And then when they arrive, if I know them, if we're supposed to just now be meeting, whatever the scene is, I make that the real thing. I make that the moment. Make it real for you, it'll be real for the audience. Be present and we'll see you being present. And it's a present to us. Yes, I said that, it's terrible, I know. It's a present to us, your audience, to unwrap and watch you be in that moment. There have been many actors or actresses, what's her name? Viola Davis. She was in this movie Doubt. She wasn't in that movie very much. I think she was in it like maybe 13 minutes, got nominated for an Oscar for 13 minutes. And in those minutes, she was present, listening, being there for her scene partner. When you've probably heard that phrase said before, actors, being there for your scene partner. It basically means that when your partner is giving you something, that you're giving it back. If it's a scene where you're supposed to be arguing, but your character's not supposed to argue back, and you're supposed to be whatever, then if you're supposed to be like sort of playing it off, you're not getting pulled in, then don't pull in, don't get pulled in. But it has to feel like you're not getting, you have to play it from that real place. That's what creates these chemistry moments. That's what makes other actors want to work with you. Like the real chemistry isn't necessarily always what we see on camera. The real chemistry is the idea that when they call cut, that your scene partner looks at you and goes, oh wow, thanks. That was great. I remember hearing George Clooney say when he was back in the day when he worked on this TV show ER, that he was in a scene and he had been on season 7. So he says, it wasn't like he was phoning it in, but you do kind of get tired. You've had these moments before, you've done this before. But this guest actor was coming in and it was a very emotional scene, and he said and he was dealing with, I guess, the kid's child. And the guest actor, he said, was giving him the business, meaning the guest actor was performing so strong and was so present and was so giving of everything they needed to give for the character that he felt disingenuous because he knew he wasn't giving everything. And he took a pause, he asked for a cut, he took a moment to get himself together, he came back, and he met them where they were. He wasn't supposed to get all hyped up with them, but he was supposed to be present, and he knew he wasn't. And he made sure he made that adjustment and became present so that he could hear them like a real person, like a real doctor should, like his character would, so that he can give them back what he needs to give them back, even if it's just one line. Even if it's just a simple line of, I understand, I'm gonna take care of your kid. But you can't do that line justice if you weren't listening to everything the mom just screamed and cried and frustrated about. That's how you create chemistry, by being present and by listening. So if you're doing those two simple things, the rest of it, Will you get this moment? Maybe. Maybe you and this guy, or this guy, or if it's you, if you're the guy and this girl, you guys fall in love and it looks like love. Yeah. But the reality is sometimes, even if you do really fall in love, it doesn't always translate well. As in Geely with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, who are now married. But back in the day, when they did that movie and they were in love, it was terrible. Their chemistry was bad. Probably because they knew each other too well. And they weren't playing the characters like people who were just meeting. They were playing it like people who already have this background and stuff. I've seen you naked already. And if you've already playing it like that, then there's nothing left for us to build to. You're not present with the character. The character has never seen him. The character has never seen her. We've never been intimate. And if that's true, then you play that. And then you look at some, like the scenes like in Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt, and you go, They wanted to see each other naked because it was coming through. We don't know if they did or didn't. We don't know the specifics of that relationship. But what we do know is the chemistry between them in that movie was amazing. You believed it. And I think that's less to do with whether or not they were dating or sleeping together or whatever, and more to do with the fact that they were really talented actors who were being present and were listening to each other and making sure that they stayed in the moment of the scene because that's what it called for. The rest of it is just the X factor, the thing you can't put a whatever on. There's nothing you can do. Because if you do the other two, the third thing, the X factor, may not happen. And it may feel sort of like, oh, it was good. And we've all seen those projects, we've seen those films or those TV shows where characters meet and you kind of go, huh. Like New Girl. In New Girl, the main character, Jess, was never supposed to date any of the guys in the house. But we, the audience, kept seeing every time she spoke with, what's the character's name? Nick. Every time she and Nick would talk or they would have moments, it was like, huh, is there something happening here? Which probably meant that in real life, they liked each other, like as friends, probably respected each other. But when they got on camera, that like came through along with the fact that they were listening and they were being present when each other were performing. And all of a sudden, we as the audience go, oh, wow. Those are those moments in your series, in your favorite series, where you're sitting there and you go, oh God, I want these two characters to get together. Please, 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 put these two characters together. Because every time you see them in a scene together, there's the X factor. They're already present, they're already listening, then the X factor comes into play. And then we're like, ooh, the chemistry with them is so good. The chemistry with them is so good. But sometimes the best way to play the chemistry is to play against the chemistry and to keep them apart as long as you can so that the audience really gets pulled in. So I say that to you guys as actors. Make sure you're being present in every scene. And being present means to be present. It's really simple. You have a scene to do. Be in the scene. If there's something else going on in your life, put it out of your mind. You have to. Or else, why are you there? You're not doing your job. Then the other part is listen. Listen to your scene partner or partners. Be present. If you're present and you're listening, oh my God, the things you're gonna do, even without saying anything. There's an argument over there between your parents. If you're playing the daughter and you're being present and you're listening, maybe in that moment you do a roll eyes moment and the director catches it. But that's just you being present and listening. And you just simply go, no, you have no line. But all of a sudden the director goes, did we get that? Can we pick that? Can we get it on a pickup? Because he knows that was real. That was a real moment. It did something. It said something. It said that you were present and listening to this moment. And then when we look at it as a whole, the X factor comes into play where the three of you guys have just created this scene that feels so real, so very real, where the audience sit there and they go, wow, wow. I remember hearing that in the new Color Purple movie, there's a scene in which they have to separate the Nettie and Celie character when, spoiler alert for those who don't know, there's that whole scene. And in the scene, the director whispered in the ear of the actor playing Mr. to make sure that he rips them apart, do whatever he has to do to tear them apart, to physically pull them apart, whatever he has to do. And then he told them, the two girls, whatever he tries to do, don't let him pull you apart. Those are complete opposite directions. And then he said action. and the scene was going on, and he's pulling, and they're fighting, and they're holding on to each other for dear life, and it's emotional, and they're present, and they're listening to each other, and they're in the moment, and they're holding on to a stick, and he comes around and he bangs their hand, not like really bangs it, but bangs it enough so that on camera it looks horrific. And we're so into it, and we're so pulled. And this hasn't even aired. I've only seen a couple of clips of it. This is coming, I think it comes out in Christmas, so make sure you guys check it out. And they pull them apart, and they finally pull them apart. When they're pulled apart, I heard that the actor was in tears. The guy who had to do it, because he was so present, because he was so in the moment. He was so there, playing the role that he was supposed to be playing, that when it was done and he stepped away from it and looked at it, it was really hard for him to see what he just did, even though it wasn't him. But I bet you that when we, the audience, go and see that scene, we're all gonna be like, wow, that's chemistry. Because we believed it. All the characters came together and did what they were supposed to do, and we believed it. Chemistry doesn't always mean that it has to be a love moment. It's just a moment in which everything just makes sense. It's that moment where mother talks to son and the son doesn't want to hear it, and we go, wow, that was hard. You know, husband and wife have a difficult conversation, and we just sit there and go, whew. We feel, when they're done talking, we sit there and feel like, whoo, I felt like I was in it. As much as it's the fun stuff. Someone having a fun, happy conversation, and you're laughing and you're smiling and you're in it. And when it's over, you're like, you're feeling light, you're feeling good. That all comes from being present and from listening. The other stuff, the acting, I assume you can do. I'll assume that that's there. Being present and listening, that requires practice. You have to consistently tell your mind, stay here. Because our mind wants to travel. It wants to go to the next scene, or the scene before where you thought you messed up, or the take before. You gotta let all that go and be present. And then you gotta listen to what's happening in front of you. Because maybe in this particular take, the actor, actress, actors give you a different line read. They read the line differently this time. They deliver it differently. But if you're so stuck in your head and you're not present, you don't hear it. And then you miss out on an opportunity to give them a response. Same lines, but a different response that elevates the whole scene. For that to happen, present, listen. Present, listen. Simple. I hope that's really helpful to you guys. Hope you put the work in. Ensure that you continue, actors, to recognize that people assume acting is easy because you're playing make-believe. It isn't. If it was easy, everybody would do it. It's very difficult to be present in your regular life. Now imagine doing that with lights, cameras, all of this, and 30 people staring at you. That's even harder. So please recognize, I recognize, we all here at Khumo recognize what it requires to do what you do. Keep working at it. It's a discipline. It's a career. It's a whole lot of work, but it's also a whole lot of worth it. So please continue to work hard. And I look forward to seeing some of the incredible projects you have coming up. And check out, remember, anytime you want, you can always check out all of our old videos. And also check out other people's stuff. See what movies are out there. Check out some of the stuff that you think are good scenes. Look at the chemistry between them. Remember, it doesn't have to be about sex or whether or not they like each other or hate each other. And if it's about how do they play with each other? How do these two characters feel in this real space? How does that come across? And if you believe it, then it's chemistry. They've done their job. So pay attention to that. See what they're doing. See if you can spot them being present. See if you can spot moments in other scenes where you recognize this feels uncomfortable for whatever reason, but not in the way that they want you to feel uncomfortable. Uncomfortable in the sense of, it's just not good. It's not playing right. And see if you can spot where maybe who is being disingenuous, who is not present, who's not listening. And maybe you'll figure it out, because sometimes the edit won't fix that. So I wish you guys the best of luck on your next projects. And as always, please remember to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell a friend, to come and take a look at what we've been doing. And they just reminded me, I want to thank our beautiful sponsors at The Barber Hair Studio. I always get it wrong. The Barber Hair Studio. They are our official sponsor who've been doing my hair since I've been here, and it's been amazing. Thank you, CJ. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, everybody over at The Barber in Game City, here in Japarone. So please, if you're ever in the neighborhood and you're looking to get your hair cut or your beard trimmed or edged, go see them. These guys are really talented, and I always leave there with a smile. So I'll see you guys again soon. Have a great evening.